The final presidential debate wrapped up a few hours ago. President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden went head-to-head at Belmont University, looking to sway undecided voters. We'll have the latest from Nashville tonight.
Plus, the lieutenant governor's debate just wrapped up in Olympia. Our political reporter Casey Decker will join us for the results.
The winter storm warning goes into effect Friday as the impending snow is just on Washington's doorstep, and I'm tracking how much snow is in our forecast.
And with the snow on its way, roads will certainly be impacted. I spoke with transportation crews about how they're getting ready for the day.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News at 11 tonight. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
Hi there, everyone. I'm Regina On.
Well, we've been talking about it all week and it's almost here, the snow.
Yes.
In fact, the National Weather Service today issued a winter storm warning that takes effect tomorrow.
And Thomas Patrick out on the Outdoor Weather Center for us tonight. So Thomas, what can we expect tomorrow and how cold is it out there?
Yeah, it's pretty cold right now. In fact, we're already at the freezing mark with our temperatures expected to be in the 20s for tonight. And that's a key difference when it comes to our first snowfall of the season. Sometimes it's always that close call of, is it raining? Is it snowing? This time we're getting that cold blast of air first, and then the snow is going to come during the day tomorrow. Here are the winter storm warnings, all those pink shaded counties. Those are the areas that are going to see the most. Probably a broad brush range between 2 to 6 inches of snow because this is a multi-hour event for our Friday. Here are those low temperatures I mentioned tonight. Basically everybody down into the 20s. Deer Park probably leading the way at 20 degrees by the time we wake up tomorrow morning. So that's more than cold enough to set the stage for that snowfall that's going to be on the way. It'll start in our northwestern areas at first and then spread across the heart of the inland northwest during the midday to afternoon hours tomorrow with a moderate or medium potential for that heavy snowfall. I think that, again, 2 to 6 inches is a pretty wide range, but that'll cover most of those areas that were in that dark blue on that previous map. The cold air is pushing in from the north and east, but the moisture and the snowfall is going to come in from the North Pacific. So that's where those two weather factors collide come tomorrow and brings us the snow. In fact, there will be another push of cold air moving in with that first little batch. So coming up, I'm going to time out when this snow starts and comes to an end and have a city-by-city breakdown to categorize those snowfall ranges that we are expecting across the area.
My goodness, Regina, this will be your first snowfall in Spokane.
Yes,
You ready?
It is. I have my earmuffs, my scarves, my gloves. They're all prepared. But I'm just not ready yet.
I got my hoodie, my sweatshirt. I'm good to go.
That's it.
All right.
That's all
Thank
Mark
you, Thomas. Yes. Well, with the snowstorm on the way, Avista says they are prepared for possible outages.
So in a statement today, Avista said they have crews ready and vehicles stocked with everything they might need to assess. With assessment teams will also be ready along with their guard teams to ensure public safety.
So if you experience a power outage, you are encouraged to report it online on Avista's mobile app. Just head to their website, myavista.com. Well, the city of Spokane says they are not initiating a full city plow right now, of course, but crews, de-icers, and trucks are on standby. A full city plow would happen if 4 inches of snow is on the street. City crews are keeping an eye on the forecast in case they may need to make a change. So you can text the keyword snow to 509-448-2000 for the latest information on the October snow expected tomorrow.
All right, with new measures in place to keep order, President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden went head-to-head at Belmont University looking to sway undecided voters less than 2 weeks away from Election Day.
So it was a much calmer debate tonight compared to that first debate. Skylar Henry has the latest from Nashville, Tennessee tonight.
President Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden squared off for their final debate before Election Day. The president defended his handling of the pandemic.
We closed up the greatest economy in the world in order to fight this horrible disease that came from China. We have a vaccine that's coming. It's ready. It's going to be announced within weeks.
Biden outlined his plan for fighting COVID-19.
I'm going to shut down the virus, not the country. It's his ineptitude that caused the country to have to shut down in large part.
The candidates addressed the topic of interference in the election from overseas.
They will pay a price if I'm elected. They're interfering with American sovereignty.
Nobody tougher than me on Russia. Between the sanctions,
Biden responded to President Trump's claims about the international business dealings of Biden and his son Hunter.
My son has not made money in terms of this thing about, what are you talking about, China. I have not had it. The only guy made money from China is this guy.
your son said we have to give 10% to the big man. Joe, what's that all about?
Even before tonight's debate, about 47 million Americans have already voted, ahead of Election Day, which is just 12 days away.
You know who I am. You know who he is. You know his character. You know my character. You know our reputations for honor and telling the truth. I am anxious to have this race.
You know, Joe, I ran because of you. I ran because of Barack Obama, because you did a poor job. If I thought you did a good job, I would have never run.
They discussed the future of health care.
I'd like to terminate Obamacare, come up with a brand new, beautiful health care.
What I'm going to do is pass Obamacare with a public option.
Polls show there are far fewer undecided voters now than 2016, when President Trump was elected. Skylar Henry, CBS News, Nashville, Tennessee.
And also tonight, the lieutenant governor's debate just wrapped up about 2 hours ago in Olympia.
Our political reporter, Casey Decker, joining us live tonight. Casey, what can you tell us about tonight's debate?
Well, Mark, Regina, the two candidates, Congressman Denny Heck and State Senator Marco Lias, they're both Democrats, so you might expect there wouldn't be too much difference between them on the issues. Well, you'd be right. They were pretty much fundamentally in line with each other on many issues, ranging from COVID safety to the budget.
We have to rely on the science and the data. We can't be running off chasing rumors and pretending that you can drink bleach and make yourself better.
Together, we have saved tens of thousands of lives because of the work we have done this year. We should not begin with a cuts approach. We did that in the last recession, and we are still paying for the consequences of it to this day. It shredded our mental health safety net, and we have seen thousands of Washingtonians suffer as a result of it. So we need to start with a conversation about how we use our reserves, how we use federal support, and look at new progressive revenue. I support closing abusive big business tax loopholes. We've got to be careful that the decisions we're making aren't doubling down on historic inequities.
And I think whatever measures or actions we take going forward should protect the vulnerable. And I'll add to that. I think we should also protect the institutions that are going to help our economy grow, like higher education. I do think that the use of the rainy day fund is prudent because I think it's raining. And then if we get to revenue, I do think where we start is with the principle and the standard that we're not going to adopt anything that is going to render our state's tax system, which is already the most regressive in the country, any more regressive. In fact, what we ought to do is contemplate any combination of revenues that will render it more progressive.
Well, since they're so similar, that of course will leave many voters wondering, how am I supposed to choose between them? Well, of course, there are in fact a few differences between the candidates. On issues, one in particular stood out. There was an argument about COVID relief funding packages, but most of the differences were actually based on their relative professional experiences.
Congress approved a $500 billion slush fund that's bailed out private jet makers that are Trump donors. It's provided billions in fees to the big banks, and even companies that Congressman Heck is part owner of have received bailout funds. When we are focusing on assistance, it's got to go to those who are struggling most. And we've got to draw clear lines here. I know it's uncomfortable, but I think Washingtonians deserve to know.
The only other alternative is he thinks he can just be put into a room with President Trump and have him bent to his will and do a better job of negotiating this than Speaker Pelosi. In no fashion did I support any legislation to receive self-benefit or to self-serve in any way, shape, or form, and I resent the implication that he makes with that.
And I believe this moment calls for bold, transformational change. And I'll break down barriers too, as our state's first openly gay statewide executive.
And then, of course, I've had the last 8 years the honor to serve in the United States House of Representatives. These values, these experiences, are going to come in handy.
And when you look at my record, I've been in the Senate making change all these years, advancing healthcare access, advancing educational access, and helping our small businesses and struggling families. With all due respect to my friend, the congressman, he has been in Washington, D.C., a much different environment, a much different situation. I bring on-the-ground experience here in Olympia, delivering change.
I actually think the Washington State Legislature and the Washington State Senate could use a fresh perspective, as long as they have the experience to do the job, and clearly I do.
Now, the general perspective is that Heck represents a more establishment wing of the party, whereas Lias a younger, more progressive one. Both candidates have a slew of endorsements from their colleagues, state leaders, and from political groups, but Heck won the primary with a pretty significant percentage of the vote compared to Lias. One other thing, There is no, obviously, Republican candidate on the ticket, so that's why failed gubernatorial candidate Joshua Freed has launched a write-in campaign. For now, back to you in the studio. Mark, Regina.
Casey Decker live tonight. Casey, thank you. All right, still ahead here on KREM 2 News at 10. A winter storm in October means people are scrambling a bit right now. The rush is on for snow tires. We'll talk to an expert about the best options. There might be a wait, though. Stay with us. We're back after this.